Good morning. Namaste. I'm Dr. Uma Keduvatan, Faculty of Agricultural and Veterinary Sciences, Jayoti Vidyapith Women's University, Jaipur, and I'm joining you here to take the session on protein estimation by using Lawry's method for the bioenergetics and metabolism lab this semester. So, what is a protein? Protein is a polymer of amino acids. So you know that there are different amino acids. There are 20 amino acids in all that are present in the human body. And they are all needed for the protein synthesis. And proteins are the building blocks of our body. There are structural proteins, transport proteins. They are enzymes. Most of the enzymes, except for the ribozymes, are proteins. So, like they are very essential for our bodily functions and metabolism. And there are multiple methods by which we can estimate the total protein content of a whatever preparation that we are using. Like if you are taking a food material and you want to do the protein content in that, if you're lysing a cell and you want to detect how much protein is present in that, if you have taken some egg albumin and you want to find out its protein concentration, how much protein is present per gram of the albumin, per gram of the egg white, then all that, like it could be many reasons. Like protein estimation can be done for many reasons, and there are multiple methods that are available for estimation of protein as well. Like Lawry's method is one of the most sensitive methods for protein estimation. Then there is Bradford assay. Then there are modified methods like Biuret method. There are multiple methods available for protein estimation. However, Lawry's method is one of the major methods for estimation of protein. And the principle behind this is that it combines the actions of copper ions with peptide bonds under alkaline conditions. That is the principle of Biuret test, and with the oxidation of aromatic protein residues. Now, this aromatic protein residues leave histidine, though histidine, tryptophan, and tyrosine are the aromatic residues. Um, Histidine is not classified as such under uh, the aromatic residues when it comes for these protein estimations. It's tryptophan and tyrosine that plays the major role. And be it the determination of proteins by absorbance at 280 nanometers. Like in the earlier session when we were talking about spectrophotometric techniques, I had already told you that if you are if you want to measure the DNA concentration in a solution, you will be using the DNA solution and taking its absorbance at 260 nanometers. Now, if you want to measure the protein concentration, then same UV, but at 280 nanometers is used. Now, why at 280 nanometers? Then also the structures that absorb this UV at 280 nanometers are the aromatic structures of the tryptophan and tyrosine moieties in the protein present. And this tryptophan and tyrosine, the presence of tryptophan and tyrosine is what is measured in Lawry's method and in Bradford method as well, in the bisynchronic acid method or the Hartree-Lawrie assay, which are also modified methods of Lawrie method. Again, the aromatic amino acids are the ones that are important. Now, the if you want to go look into the principles behind this, then it's essentially that uh, the protein concentrations it lies in the reactivity of the peptide nitrogens with copper ions under alkaline conditions, and the subsequent reduction of the fallen Kiokalto, that is a phosphomolybdate phosphotungstic acid reagent, and that gets converted into a compound called the heteropolymolybdenum blue, which is catalyzed by copper, and it is also dependent on the oxidation of the aromatic amino acids. So Lowry method is actually very sensitive to pH changes because it requires alkaline pH. So if you are changing the pH into acidic pH, then this reaction will not take place. So the optimum pH of the assay is somewhere around 10 to 10.5. Now, the Lowry method is sensitive to very low concentrations of protein, and that is one of the reasons why Lowry method is so popular. Like that paper in which Lowry had actually published this method, that is that holds the record for the most cited paper ever. Like anyone who was ever using a protein estimation method, be it for any molecular biology techniques like in Western blotting, or you are doing a base biochemical assay and you need the specific activity of the enzyme, and so you need to determine the total protein concentration because it will be activity per mg of protein that will be determined and given as the specific activity of the enzyme. Then for all of these, you are basically using this Lowry method in order to determine the amount of protein that is present in your solution. So this paper is actually one of the most cited paper ever in terms of scientific literature. And that is so because Lowry method is highly sensitive, and it can determine from about 0.1 to 2 milligrams of protein per ml, where there is also suggestions that it can even go as low as to like 0.005 milligram of protein per ml. That'll be like 5 micrograms of protein per ml, and that is like so low you can't even measure that quantity. If you want to get this 5 micrograms, you will need to actually weigh something more and make 2 ml or 3 ml of that solution. It's such low quantities of protein, and Lowry method is able to detect even such low concentrations of protein with high resolution, and that is one of the major advantages of Lowry method. Now, there should be some disadvantages as well, right? Like it can't be that like it's so good and like there will be absolutely no problem with that. One thing, Lowry method takes about 30 minutes in order to develop, and that time is a major factor. And then there are a lot of compounds that interfere with Lowry procedure. That includes some amino acid derivatives, certain buffers, drugs, lipids, sugars, salts, some nucleic acids also, and sulfhydryl reagents, ammonium ions, non-ionic buffers, thiol compounds like mercaptoethanol, and such reducing compounds. They also interfere because this is essentially an oxidation reaction that is happening over here. So under such circumstances, Lowry reaction can go RA. But otherwise, it's one, and as long as you are maintaining the perfect reagent composition, the reagent ratio is being maintained perfectly, and you are maintaining the alkaline conditions under perfect balance, Lowry method is the single most sensitive method for determination of proteins. So if we are going into the reagents that are required for this, so there will be a reagent A that is so reagent A will be 2% sodium carbonate in 0.1 normal NaOH, and reagent B will be 1% sodium potassium tartrate. So it will be 1% sodium potassium tartrate. Then reagent C, which will be 0.5% copper sulfate in water. So this 3 solutions can be prepared and kept and can be used as and when required. But mixing them, that is the reagent D, that is reagent 1. This mixing, in order to prepare about 50 ml of the solution, you can scale it down accordingly. Like if you need only 5 ml of the reagent, that is not possible. But like if you need only about 5 ml of the reagent, you could very well prepare like 4.8 ml of reagent A, 0.1 ml of B, and 0.1 ml of C mixed together. This should be freshly prepared always. But these solutions can be prepared and stored, and they have a good shelf life even at room temperature. So now the main part. There is a reagent called the Fallen phenol reagent or the Fallen Keokalto reagent that will be mixed with equal volume of NaOH, and that is the major reagent in the Fallen's method. Like I had already told you that it has got a phosphomolybdate and the phosphotungstic acid, and this molybdenum and tungsten moiety is present in the Fallen Keokalto reagent is what is converted into the polymolybdenum blue, and that is what gives the final reaction. And this happens when the tyrosine and tryptophan residues in the proteins gets oxidized under alkaline conditions. So that is the basic principle and the reagents required for the method. Now, how to actually do this procedure? So for that, actually, you will be adding the reagents in a standard fashion. So if you have a BSA solution of like you have a BSA working standard, like you are dissolving about 50 milligram of BSA in 50 ml, then you will get a 1 milligram per ml working solution of BSA. And then if you are like diluting it further, then that will be your working standard of about 200 microgram per ml. That will be 0.2 milligram per ml. That will be your working standard. And now if we are adding, so I'll share the screen again. So this will be your table for working. So you have this, and you are preparing BSA of different concentration. So now this 200 microgram per ml is your working standard. And from that, if you are adding 1 ml, then it will be 200 micrograms of standard. And if you are adding 0.8 and 0.2, then it will be 160. So depending on that, you will be preparing various dilutions of the working standard that has been given to you. That will be 200 micrograms per ml of protein. And with that, you will be preparing various protein concentrations like 0 microgram per ml, 40, 80, 120, 160, and 200 microgram per ml. Now, what you have to add? So the volume of reagent C, I had told you that reagent C that was prepared was the mixture of the other reagents, and then you will be adding 5 ml of each of that. And then you will be also given an unknown sample. Like in every spectrophotometric method, I had told you, these will be for your standard curve preparation. And there will be an unknown also given, in which you do not know the concentration. But then once you have added the reagent C, you will be incubating it at room temperature, and then adding the reagent D, that'll be your fallen Kiocal-2 reagent, and then incubating at dark, in dark. So this is a light sensitive reaction. So you have to incubate in dark under foil wrapped conditions for 30 minutes. That can be done at room temperature. It need not be done at 37 degrees Celsius or in boiling water bath like for other experiments you were incubating in boiling water, but boiling temperatures are not required for this. You only need to incubate at room temperature, but this is a highly light sensitive reaction. Most of the methods for estimation of protein are highly light sensitive, and so you actually need to get it done at in dark conditions. So it will always be in foil wrapped tubes, or it will be in dark colored tubes that will be done. And now, as I had told you, it's a blue colored compound that is forming. And so its absorbance will form, maxima will be at the other end of the spectrum. So the absorbance is measured at A660, and this will be what you will be measuring. And now once you have this, you will get a standard curve like this. And once you have that standard curve, in that you will say you got an absorbance of 0.3 for your unknown sample, then you will take this, and that will correspond to about 7.5 or 8 for your sample and of the concentration of protein, and thereby you can say that your sample has got 8 whatever the value in the x-axis corresponds to your concentration of the protein for the absorbance that you have obtained. So like if you are getting the values like in 30, 40, very low value, like for 40 microgram, you have got around an OD of 0.1. For 80, you got around 0.2. And for 120, you got around 0.3. So, and now you have got your absorbance for your unknown also 0.3. So then you know that this is going to be like 0.3 is going to correspond to 120 microgram per ml of protein present in the sample. And so that will be the expected result of this method. Now, the use of this method, I have already told you that protein estimation is highly important, because for every case, whether it be molecular biology and you are doing a Western blotting, or you are doing a biochemical assay and you are doing an enzyme assay, most of the results will be expected to be presented as specific activity or per milligram of protein, or in that way. So then you will need weight of the protein that is present in your sample. And so you will need to determine this based on a BSA standard curve. BSA is supposed to be the golden standard for most of these protein estimation methods. So you can use BSA. It need not be the actual protein that you are working with, but a BSA standard curve can work very well for any protein. So that will be it for this session. From this session, you will be able to understand how to do a protein estimation using Lowry method, the basic principle of the Lowry method, and also its applications, where it should be used, how to prepare the table, write, note down your observations, and how to do the calculations for determining the concentration of the unknown, the protein concentration in the unknown sample that has been provided to you. So hope you have all understood this. Thank you. That'll be all for today. Have a nice day.